new global gender divide is emerging, showing women and men are drifting further apart politically, with young men...
My bad. Sorry, guys. This, I don't stream often, so I'm just gonna kind of pretend none of that happened. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Hey, how's it going, Canada? Just kidding. I'm Alias to Guy, Canadian Citizen Journal. Okay, now I got the mic working. Okay, everything's back to normal. Okay, so tonight's the by-election. We're going to post results as they come up. I'm going to try and bounce around some feed to kind of, fill in the time. And there's no better place to start. You can't make this stuff up, people. Than your state broadcaster. This is what CBC is running. Yeah.
Men leaning more to conservative ideas, including right here in Little. A new global gender divide is emerging, showing women and men are drifting further apart politically, with young men leaning more to conservative ideas, including right here in Canada.
Men feel that they've always been left out and derided and neglected by these exclusionary progressive campaigns, then they may want their own heroes.
In April, Jonathan Montpetit looked at the ideological gap. Now, what the post-election numbers reveal about the conservative political landscape.
I want to have my traditional values. I want to be able to be a man. I want to be able to be masculine.
The voices of a new generation of conservatives.
They continue to vote Liberal. They continue to elect a socialist government that takes our money, makes our decisions for us, and ruins our country.
They're young, male, and frustrated.
We're at a moment where men and women are moving in opposite directions.
A trend happening in some of the world's biggest democracies.
CBS News exit polling finds that the president-elect won white men under 30 by 7 percentage points.
In Germany.
The far-right AfD is the winner among young men, while a large number of young women chose the left party.
And in South Korea.
The frustration and anger of young men in this country, whether their opinion is right or wrong, is palpable.
In Canada, young men are now an integral part of Pierre Poilievre's base.
The extent to which the coalition has changed, I think would be very shocking to people. It's very, very young.
Carney's not here for you. He's here to put Canada last.
Canadian politics has changed a lot in the last 4 years. Check this out.
In the 2021 federal election, polls suggested that about the same number of young men and young women voted for the Conservatives. But things were different in the last election. That's a 12-point gap. Pollster David Coletto says that gap is the new norm in Canadian politics.
Have you ever seen support this high for the Conservatives among young men?
Not in my career. It is a new phenomenon that we are seeing such a divide that the demographic most likely today to say they're going to vote Conservative in our polling are men under the age of 30. That is a complete change to at least what I'm going to say the last few decades of Canadian politics.
In the last 3 federal elections, voters under 30 were more likely to vote for either the Liberals or the NDP than for the Conservatives, which kind of fits with the stereotype of young people being more progressive. But around the time Pierre Poilievre became the Conservative leader, Gen Z men shifted their support to the party. Jeannie Roth was Poilievre's director of communications on his leadership campaign.
What's changed is as young people are increasingly unhappy with where they sit in the world because they don't own homes, because they haven't been able to start families, because they feel like when they take public transit it's unsafe. Increasingly those young voters are open to voting Conservative.
Boomers don't actually give a flying fudge about the future generations of Canada.
Adam Beattie is a conservative influencer from the Vancouver.
Okay, I'm gonna beat mainstream media. I'm gonna beat legacy. I'm gonna beat propaganda. Are you ready, ladies and gentlemen? We here on this channel are calling it. It's over. Poilievre has just won the by-election. Okay, I'm just going to pause that. And I'm going to go to the live footage. So far, this is what we are looking at. Conservatives at 80.3% at 16,324 votes. Bonnie Critchley, legacy socialist media's favorite, who has been called out by the military and those who knew her and served with her for being, well, a liar, at 9.7%. Liberals at 4.2%, NDP at 2.2%, the United Party at 1.8%, the People's Party at 0.3%, and the Green Party at 0.3%. And, well, now you know. So the election's over. So now, what's everybody waiting for? Well, everybody's waiting to hopefully prove mainstream wrong. And I'm kind of hoping this as well. And I got faith. I know a lot of people in that area. I actually work lots in that area. I really hope people come out of the woodwork to prove legacy wrong. And that Poilievre can swing this with a higher approval rating, a higher vote percentage than the original, who has stepped down, gave up his pension for not only his leader, not only his party, but for Canada. Okay. Let's get back to propaganda.
Area. He posts under the name Robin Skies on TikTok, where he has nearly 180,000 followers. Beattie voted for the NDP in his first federal election in 2015, but he eventually turned to the Conservatives because he felt they were more responsive to the anxieties of young men.
Why do you think conservatism now is appealing to young men in a way that maybe it hadn't before?
Because we're on the front line of all the crap that's going on.
Beattie says he moved out of downtown Vancouver because it was too expensive and because he was assaulted.
But having like a crazed person who's clearly high on something attack me, call the police and have the police look at me and say, there's nothing we can do about it. Yeah, that's a radicalizing experience. And the only people who are capable of living life without having to face that, frankly, are an older generation who live in, protected neighborhoods, who bought into those neighborhoods when those neighborhoods were inexpensive, and who continue to be shielded from the reality that's going on that's being caused by these liberal policies and ideas.
We wanted to get a better understanding of when this gender gap began to emerge. So CBC News analyzed data from the Canadian Election Study, a comprehensive survey run by political scientists before and after elections.
The data suggests young men and women once had similar attitudes on questions about whether more should be done for women. But by 2015, their views began to diverge. The same goes for what should be done for racialized minorities. And recent polling by Abacus data suggests that young men are more likely than young women to agree trans athletes should not be able to play on sports teams, and are more likely to believe there are no longer significant obstacles to women getting ahead. Coletto says young Canadians do agree on political and economic topics, like the importance of healthcare and childcare. It's on these cultural questions where young men lean conservative.
I think they do feel very anxious about the scale and the speed at which change is happening, particularly in societal kind of power structures, right? Like, it may be awkward to say, but I think they feel that their place in society is weakening and is maybe not as relevant as it used to be, right? That the historic advantage that particularly white men have had in our society is been challenged.
Alice Evans is studying how that rapid change has led to a global gender gap.
I think there is a risk that progressive activism has made some men feel alienated.
Evans says young people began polarizing along gender lines when they started spending less and less time socializing in person and more time on social media.
Globally, coupling is down, socializing is down, fertility is down. And that's a totally new dynamic whereby men and women are not necessarily understanding each other's perspectives. So people are spending much more time alone, by themselves, single, and then in these online networks.
Jobs are being taken.
The backlash to progressive politics has been stoked by online influencers known as the manosphere.
How long before we have an actual sex robot that can talk to you like that?
Probably not long.
It's a corner of the internet where figures like Joe Rogan host hours-long podcasts that are popular with young men.
All this ridiculous woke shit with these rigid ideas of what you have to say and not say. It's like none of that is liberal. None of that is really like open-minded or progressive. It's all just it's a cult.
Men may gravitate to guys like Trump or Elon Musk who are saying, hey, the cavalry is here. We're going to cheer for the boys. We're going to champion men's rights. We're going to put men's rights in because that's an affirming message. So if men feel that they've always been left out and derided and neglected by these exclusionary progressive campaigns, then they may want their own hero.
Seriously.
Poilievre often speaks in a language that...
You can't make this stuff up. You're watching Comedy Central. No, I'm just kidding. This is hilarious. This is propaganda, people. This is disgusting.
Resonates with young men.
This insane, woke DEI obsession is driving people away.
Or like when he sits with Jordan Peterson.
Young people say, look, okay, I went through, I got an education, I work nonstop, and I have made the calculation that there is no mathematical path for me to own a house.
It's a strategy, I think, designed entirely to speak to that cohort, which is not a normal conservative audience. And so if Pierre Poilievre finds a way to get those young men out to vote, that's a constituency that could be decisive in him becoming prime minister.
Young men like Beattie.
The only reason why young people on the right are talking about all of this woke stuff is because people on the left are obsessed with it. They're constant, and it's like, I don't care. I want a job, I want a house, I want a family, I want safety.
Since Trump's return to the White House, public opinion in Canada has been in a state of extreme flux. So far, young men have stood by the Conservatives, but boomers have shifted their support back to the Liberals.
It's certainly true for any political leader trying to hold together a broad voting coalition that there are always going to be concerns about appealing to one component of that voting coalition over another. You know, Poilievre is talking about institutions being broken, and so if you feel defensive of institutions, which many older voters do, it's harder for that to resonate.
Don't get me wrong, Donald Trump's comments about 51st state and the tariffs, not good, okay? Huge L. But the idea that people, specifically of an older generation, might be willing to give a mandate to Mark Carney because essentially Donald Trump bruised their ego while their kids are struggling to pay rent and to buy a house and to afford the basics is frustrating, to say the least.
That was Jonathan Montpetit with that investigation. Next, wildfire evacuees in Newfoundland get a visit from a special friend.
When people are down and out, if you can help someone, sure, why not?
How rusty, Keith?
Okay, now, let's do a quick catch-up. We now have 19,906 votes for Pierre. Oh, there's a new update. 20,855. His percentage is at 80%. Bonnie the fake Critchley is at 2587. We'll just kind of keep going. And I'm going to roll over to Ezra. Because this is kind of, well, gotta love Rebel News. They shoot straight from the hip. They don't care who. They don't care where. They don't care when. If you are a goofball, if you are breaking the rules, if you are, well, being anti-Canadian, and if you are corrupt, or in any other way making the news, they're going to report on it. And this is hilarious.
But you mentioned the Tyee. That's a hardcore left-wing magazine that was was founded by San Francisco billionaires at the Tides Foundation. So it's sort of wackadoodle stuff. But their headline, I just got to read this headline.
You have to.
The military vet who could end Poilievre's political career. Her fight is daunting, but indie candidate Bonnie Critchley isn't one to back down. the military vet who could end Poilievre's political career.
Yeah,
I am
about that.
so excited that this San Francisco written story, maybe they understand Alberta better than I do, because I have been away for a while.
Yeah, they know for sure. Michael Harris, by the way, the guy who was like, whose most famous tweet was, "Harper is lurking."
That's right.
After Harper resigned. That's the guy who wrote that. I don't know the last time that Michael Harris set foot in Alberta, but she's a darling. Bonnie Critchley, I should say, is a darling of the CBC. They had her on Power and Politics. National Post has written glowing headlines, like as though the 100 plus at the time when that article was written, meddling busybody candidates from the longest ballot campaign committee, as though they were targeting her. And this whole business about her being a military vet, that is true. But if you follow military vets on X the way I do, a lot of them are calling her out for a little bit of exaggeration, embellishment of the nature of her service. Lee Humphrey, we know Lee.
Yeah.
We like Lee. He points out that he says, I dropped this post in the thread. Stolen valor comes in many forms. There she is enjoying a Tim Hortons in, I guess, Kandahar. Sometimes it's a person who never served pretending they did. Sometimes it's someone who served pretending they received medals they didn't deserve, or embellishing their record. As a reservist, Ms. Critchley did serve in Afghanistan. She did not see combat and is as far away from being one of the, quote, first women to do so as you can get. Being proud of and clear of what you did do and not allowing others to embellish your actual military service is critical to every veteran whose reputation matters to them. She should correct the record ASAP. And then people that she served with were coming out and saying, yeah, we weren't in combat.
I have to do this. Please
They
subscribe
are actually
and
deployed
become a member
after
so we can stay on the air.
combat ended,
Jay
and we were
Goldberg is my
there
guest
to
today. We are talking
bring
about
stuff home.
government waste, which was done here before.
You know
Every
what? That just
few
fits,
months,
you know,
more examples
lesbian
of terrible
candidate,
government waste.
U-Haul,
But it
packing
seems to
up.
me this thing is getting married
you
right
know,
now
after-
with the government waste, which
it's
we
so
can stay
on
on
the
the air.
nose,
Jay
but I'm
Goldberg is my
looking
guest
again
today.
at
We
that
are
Brokeback
and
Mountain
become
article
a
in
member
the Tyee.
so we can stay on the air.
Bonnie Critchley, the military vet who could end Poilievre's political career. They say, and I'm quoting here, she made history as one of the first women to serve in a Canadian combat arms unit. And then they say a second time, the answer is complex. She is the veteran who returned from her combat deployment. In fact, they use the word combat 4 times in the article. I guess that's what, I guess she's a liar.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, at least as Lee says, if somebody else is writing this about you and you didn't say it yourself, is it a lie if you don't correct the record? I would say so.
I mean, of course she read this article. Of course she circulated it. But she, you know what? I can imagine the Tyee down in San Francisco very excited about, you know, having this candidate who's going to end Poilievre's career. And so they maybe just embellish just a teeny tiny tad. And you know what you do? You just send a quick note, hey guys, love the free article written in San Francisco. I know you guys are billionaires from the Tides Foundation, super grateful, but just dial it back a little bit. But she didn't do it because she loved the lie. Hey, there she is talking to my bald friend at the CBC. What does she have to say? I think that's her.
That is her.
Or is
yes,
that Chantal Hébert? I'm not sure. But here, just put some volume up. I want to hear a little bit about what she has to say.
It could be Coyne. We don't know.
Yeah, it could be Andrew Coyne.
They all look the same.
Try to give the bald guy, Olivia.
Well, we got real estate blow-ups happening.
My
like,
slogan,
what
which
am I
isn't
talking
a
about?
slogan,
Let
it's
me
simply
explain.
the truth. It's this is our
This
home.
is the
This is our
collapse
riding.
of
We
a
just
real
had
estate
an
transaction.
election, and we spent all that
and
money,
it's
and we elected
really
a candidate of our choice.
getting surprising.
who
So
promptly turned
we've talked
around
before in many other
and said,
videos about
"No,
how
I
if you
don't want
have
that mandate I asked
you know, if you're
for,
trying
and
to
we're
do
spending
a
another $2 million
refinance and you're looking at
to vote in the
I'm
guy
talking
from,
about
angry guy from Ottawa.
you sell a house,
who doesn't
you
know
buy a house,
jack about this
and
area. He may have been
that
born in
transaction just
Calgary,
blows up on closing day. I'm
but
not kidding.
He's from
We've had
Ottawa.
on
He
you know
hasn't
for Senate
been here. He hasn't lived
and
here.
This
and
Friday,
even if he
the
had
last
stayed in
Friday,
Calgary, This
we
is a
had
very
like
different area
the craziest
than,
blow-ups you could ever
the
imagine.
urban
So we
centers he's
have
used to.
I'm
one
gonna make a bet, you
don't
guys. I'm going to
poor
make a
guy
bet.
calls us and says, "Hey,
You don't have to take it.
I got to start
I'm gonna
looking for a
bet
house
you that
all
she
over
gets
again."
Single digits, even though she's
The
been
guy that I bought the house from,
around the world.
his
she's
lawyer
been
has just
toast
told
the
my
town.
lawyer.
From
By the way, they had a
CBC,
moving
from the
truck
Tyee,
booked,
the
so
entire
they were ready to go.
political spectrum from A to
His
B
lawyer told my
is behind
lawyer
Bonnie Critchley. They're
that
excited.
the
Tonight is the night.
guy
I
I'm
bet
buying
you
from
$1 that she's going to
misunderstood what he owed on the house.
Yeah, she's also from
I'm
Kelowna.
not kidding.
Like,
Okay,
I was just
Like,
going to say,
what math?
her slogan
Yeah, I was
is
left with the
not
choice
a
to
slogan,
sue him,
doesn't
but
make
well,
much
why would I
sense
sue?
when you put it in
Bottom
the
line is, it's
context
crazy.
of she grew up
You know,
in Kelowna, British
and you might say to yourself,
Columbia,
Ron,
and
how can that
only
even
after
happen? How is that even
retirement,
possible?
Which can't be
It's
that
like,
terribly long ago,
and
can
it's
it?
some- and for-
Moved to
okay.
the Battle River
But now real
Crowfoot
estate's gone
area,
down. And
with her family. So which is it, Bonnie? Is it your home or is it someone else's home that you're just sort of astroturfing into to run in this election? Like, which is it?
That's quite something.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about the night. Yeah. It's going to be really goofy with,
the write-ins.
Writing the name of the candidate. There's 214 candidates on the list, including some former staff from Elections Canada, which is really weird. You have to write the name. And if I was looking at the ballot correctly, I just glanced at it, you have to do the last name and I think first name or first initials. I'm not sure if that's true. Like they got to count if you write Polyev, which, by the way, is a hard name to spell.
Mm-hmm. Precisely the point.
I think there's going to be some shenanigans afoot because if you don't know how to spell Polyev or Poliver, as he used to be known as, Poilievre, you're not going to know how to spell it. I bet you ask 10 people spell Polyev, you'll get to...
Polyev has just hit the stage.
Breaking news here in Alberta. Premier Danielle Smith is back from her trade mission in Mexico, and she is speaking up on this issue over what...
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the great people of Battle River Crowfoot. If I stand before you here today, it is by the grace of God and the good generosity of so many people, the first of which I must start with is my incredible wife, Anna. Anna, yes, give her a round of applause. Where did she go? Anna, you have been an incredible rock for our family. You've been the glue that has bound us all together. And to my kids, à mes enfants, Valentina et Cruz, vous me manquez énormément. Vous me manquez énormément. Yeah, my kids have been incredibly patient and understanding as Dad has been on the road a tremendous amount over a long period of time. And especially little Valentina, I haven't seen in a while, but I want them to know that we do this work for them and for all of Canada's kids. Thank you to the incredible Damien Couric, who has made, thank you. Whose gracious sacrifice has made this moment possible. He and Danielle have been filled with kindness and generosity to us. The story that most captures the essence of the Couric family happened at a tragic moment in their life. Last harvest, Damien lost his best friend and his father right in the middle of the harvest. And of course, this was a heartbreaking moment for him. He had spent his childhood basically being mentored by this gentleman who had taught him everything he knew. But then he had to ask himself, how are we going to get the crop off? 6,000 acres. And the leader of all of this work was no longer with them. And suddenly, dozens of combines from across Battle River Crowfoot appeared at the Couric farm and scattered out into the fields and brought home the harvest. Without asking for anything in return, these incredible neighbors, friends, and people perhaps they didn't even know showed up to give a helping hand. This was bringing in the harvest in more than one way, for the Couric family has planted the seeds of friendship across this region for over 100 years. And that the seeds of those friendships came home in that beautiful harvest on that day. And that epitomizes the great people of Battle River Crowfoot, for whom I am grateful that I will have the chance to be their humble servant, to fight every day and in every way for the people in this region who feed, power, and protect all of Canada. These are the farmers, the tradespeople, the soldiers, the prison guards, the entrepreneurs, and so much more. Through drought and depression, through booms and busts, they've come through it all, and they've never stopped. But this incredible region and its amazing people have suffered terribly over the last 10 years. I have seen the main streets that have been hollowed out, and the trades workers who are underemployed because there is just not the work, as the federal government has attacked the oil and gas sector and favored foreign producers. This is the truth here in Battle River Crowfoot and in many communities across this country. Over the last 10 years, Liberal policies have sent crime, immigration, housing costs, inflation, spiraling out of control. Now, they promised recently that things would be different, but under Mr. Carney and his 157 days in office, they've only gotten worse. There have been many announcements and meetings, many photo ops, and a lot of jazz, but not a lot of results. He sent everyone home for a summer vacation. He sent them home even though the deficit is spiraling out of control. Inflation is up, elbows are down, no resource projects are underway, and a housing crisis worsens as builders can't afford to build and buyers can't afford to buy. That's why us Conservatives have our work cut out for us. This fall, as Parliament returns, we will not only oppose out-of-control Liberal inflation, crime, immigration, cost of living, and housing prices, but we will propose real solutions for safe streets, secure borders, a stronger and sovereign country with bigger take-home pay for our people. We'll put Canada first, and we will do so in a way that will make our country self-reliant and make our people capable of earning paychecks that buy affordable food and homes in safe neighborhoods. Thank you. Cet automne, à la reprise des travaux parlementaires, on ne se contentera pas de s'opposer à la criminalité, l'endettement et l'immigration et le coût de la vie hors de contrôle des libéraux. On va proposer des vraies solutions pour changer des choses, pour rendre nos rues sécuritaires, nos frontières sûres et les salaires des travailleurs plus forts, la vie plus abordable. On va mettre le Canada d'abord avec en automne, en travaillant pour les travailleurs, les gens qui font le travail acharné pour qu'ils puissent avoir un bon chèque de paie et une belle vie dans des communautés sécuritaires. Et nous serons prêts à travailler avec n'importe quel parti pour réaliser ces objectifs. We are going to be ready to work with any party to get these results. We need stronger take-home pay for our people in Battle River, Crowfoot, and across Canada, because people can't afford to live. They tell me the same story everywhere I go. Canadians now spend 42% of their income on taxes, more than on food, clothing, and shelter combined. And Mr. Carney's deficits are actually bigger today than the ones that Justin Trudeau left behind. More money for bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid, corporate welfare, fraudulent refugees, less money in the pockets of the people who earned it. We will push to cut waste and cap spending so that we can bring down inflation, debt, and taxes. We believe that Canadians deserve low taxes and bigger paychecks so that food and homes are not luxuries, but once again, the things that people can take for granted. You work hard for your money. It's time that your money started working hard for you. And transportation is one of the biggest costs to get around in this country. It's a big country, a cold country. How many came here in their electric car today? Not many. Anybody driving from Provost or Oyen and in your electric vehicle? Hardisty, from Hardisty? No. You might be on the side of the road right now. And yet in 6 months, Mr. Carney expects to have an electric vehicle mandate imposed with $20,000 per vehicle taxes applying to any vehicle above his mandated quota. This is a direct attack on rural life and on the cost of living in Canada. It will wipe out our auto sector. It is not an exaggeration to say that the majority of communities in Battle River Crowfoot and across rural and remote Canada would not exist if an electric vehicle mandate were in place. And that is why Conservatives are going to mount a massive pressure campaign at dealerships, at auto plants, in communities across the country and on the floor of the House of Commons to stop the electric vehicle mandate and allow Canadians to buy the car or truck of their choice. You should be back in the driver's seat. We need safe streets again, even in rural communities where Kevin Sorensen tells me they used to leave the doors unlocked. Now people don't feel so safe. In rural communities on farms, the thieves are showing up and siphoning gas and stealing copper. More dangerous and violent drug offenses are happening everywhere. Conservatives will push for laws that lock up violent offenders, ban drugs, treat addiction, and make our communities safe to raise families and for seniors to retire. We'll also protect the lawful, licensed, trained, and tested firearms owners. Having a hunting rifle in rural communities is not just a matter of recreation, it is a way to feed your family.
Because the credibility of these efforts we are undertaking today, are depending on at least a ceasefire.
And we will secure our borders by putting an end to the liberal open borders experiment of mass immigration, which has been a disaster. Over the next several years, we need to, frankly, we need to have more people leaving than coming, so that citizens in Canada can afford homes, can find jobs, and health care again. Conservatives welcome lawful, orderly immigration, but it has to be done in our national interest, the right people, and in the right numbers. In other words, we will fight to restore an immigration system that puts Canada first. And most of all, we need to restore the sovereignty of our country. Our nation has become far too dependent on one export market, and increasingly the Liberals are losing two trade wars, one with China and one with the U.S. Since Mr. Carney took office, $60 billion of net investment has fled the country to escape high Liberal taxes and brutal anti-development policies. This has weakened our economy and our negotiating position against other countries that want to take advantage of us. Those investors are taking their money to other places that have lower taxes and more favorable treatment. Meanwhile, U.S. and Chinese tariffs have actually worsened since Mr. Carney got elected, and that was election that he ran on getting a better deal. Conservatives will fight to put Canada first, and we will work with anyone from any party. We continue to extend our hand to Mr. Carney and say that we want to work with any party to put an end to the tariffs and get a fair deal for Canada. In fact, we're proposing solutions, nonpartisan solutions, that will help strengthen Canada's hand. For example, we propose a Canadian Sovereignty Act to take back control of our economic destiny. This act would legalize pipeline construction, rapid mine approvals, LNG plants, nuclear plants. It would get rid of the industrial carbon tax, the EV mandate. It would ensure that Alberta could continue increasing its output of oil and gas. It would pave the way to get pipelines built right across this country, and it would eliminate capital gains tax when you reinvest your profits here in Canada to bring back hundreds of billions of dollars investment. This is an idea I hope the Liberals will steal, because our purpose is Canada. It's a plan that will mean that we dig mines, lay pipe, open ports, unleash the might of our worker and the genius of our entrepreneur in a bigger, more powerful free enterprise economy that put Canadians back in charge of their lives. These steps will save you money, restore safety in your streets, secure your borders, and strengthen your nation's sovereignty. These are based on common sense, getting back to basics, things I learned a lot about when I was traveling around the great communities of the region of Battle River Crowfoot. And I have to say, you know, some might have thought it was a burden for me to come right off the campaign trail in a national campaign and go straight to knocking on doors, to traveling throughout a region of 56,000 square kilometers. But I'll tell you something, it was not a burden at all. This has been a privilege. Getting to know the people in this region has been the privilege of my life. In fact, I've had a hell of a lot of fun. Whether it's been at the bronc matches or the rodeos or, you know, walking into a parking lot, some guy I don't even know walks up and offers me a big bag of beef jerky. What? It doesn't happen in the city. Or another guy says he's got a four-wheeler and he tells me I can tear around town in it all by myself. He trusts the city boy to do that. I don't know what he was thinking. But I really love the people of Battle River Crowfoot. They're the kind of what you see is what you get. Give you the shirt off their back. Tell it like it is. Common sense people. They reinforce. I love you too. Thank you very much. I love you. And they reinforced a lot of lessons that all of us in politics have to learn and relearn again. Humility and hard work, loyalty and love. You see, the people in these communities, they fight their own battles, but they're always ready to stop and help a neighbor or a friend. They know how to stretch a dollar, and most of all, they know, in the words of the great Paul Harvey, how to bail together a family with the soft, strong bonds of sharing. They reminded me of all of these things, and they also reminded me that the road to success is never a straight line. And most of all, you should never give up in hard times. That whenever hardship strikes, you need to stand up and keep on going. And if you care about something, you don't give up on it when things get difficult or you suffer a setback. These stories that were on the faces of the people I met, the woman suffering from cancer who had just overcome days of radiation treatment, who showed up at my town hall in Stettler to tell me to keep going. I say to her, you don't give up, so I don't give up. The waitress I met in the same town who told me she also works as a teacher and a ranch hand, but has no money left at the end of the month somehow, having 3 jobs. Because she doesn't give up, I won't give up. Or Patty. Patty, a female prison guard who works at the Drumheller Penitentiary and who was tied up and viciously assaulted by a violent criminal, and told me that she wasn't afraid because she was too busy thinking about the job that she had to do to protect her fellow prison guards. My message to her is, you don't give up, so I don't give up. To Bill Bauer. To Bill Bauer, who turned 100 years old in Acme. He was born and raised in a sod hut in rural Saskatchewan and lived through the Dust Bowl and the Depression, all to move to Alberta and start generation after generation of family here in this wonderful region. Because he doesn't give up, I don't give up. To the great people of the special areas whose ancestors were told a century ago, including Damien's great-grandparents, that they'd never be able to farm on that land. Too tough and too dry. And yet, on the homestead signs that you drive by on the highway, those old names are still there, and their great-great-grandchildren are still making those fields blossom. They never gave up, so I will never give up. To the great... Because as my mother, who's here today, taught me, When you get knocked down, you get up and you keep on going. If you believe in what you're doing, you march forward. And so I say to all of the people, not just in the great region of Battle River Crowfoot, but right across this country, to anyone who has been knocked down, but has got back up and kept on going, you haven't given up, so I won't give up. Together, we will work together, we will fight together, we will sacrifice together to restore the opportunity that our grandparents left for us so that we can leave it for our grandchildren, so that we can once again restore a country that is strong, self-reliant, and sovereign. That is the country we're in this for. That is why we stay united. That is why we go forward. May God keep our land glorious and free. Thank you very much. Thank
you. Okay. Well, that was a fabulous speech. And I guess we called it just in time. So let's just take a look where we're sitting at right now. Give this a refresh. Oh my, he did not get what his predecessor got. Oh boy. We are sitting at 26,516 votes for Pierre, 3,299 for the propagandist puppet, 1,528 for the liberal socialists, fascists, nasty people, uneducated. Yeah, okay, sorry. Anyways, NDP at 740, United Party, and the rest all blah, blah, blah. It doesn't really matter. Definitely this election is over. Now, I am going to... Where are we? Oh.
With us now is CTV's chief political correspondent, Vassy Kapelas. Vassy, Pierre Poilievre, as we've heard, expected to win easily this by-election, but right, it isn't over until it's over. So, but give us some perspective here. How crucial is today to his future as leader of his party?
Well, I think both you and Kathy are right. The chances of Pierre Poilievre, Sandy, losing this riding are slim to none. I've been wrong before, but the law of averages would certainly look to secure a win for him. I think it's, part of the important analysis here is what it has done so far that Pierre Poilievre does not hold a seat at all in the House of Commons. It certainly has been a handicap for the Conservatives more widely, but in particular for his leadership of the party. So this tonight is really do or die time for Mr. Poilievre. This is the thing he needs to do in order to face down the other tests for his leadership which are coming. And there are
do or die. Dun dun dun. Or wait a minute. Propaganda. These people, unbelievable. They have zero ethics or morals or integrity. This is so disgusting.
Two that I would identify primarily, Sandy. The first is going to be a return to the House of Commons and a decision about what kind of opposition Pierre Poilievre is going to lead against a Mark Carney-led government, not a Justin Trudeau-led government, because that pivot did not happen during the election campaign to the degree that would have ensured perhaps their success. The second big test he is going to face, because of the way the party rules work, is a leadership review in January in Calgary that will happen with the party. That is the next big thing after the House of Commons that he is going to have to stare down in order to ensure his survival as leader of the party. So tonight is a first step, but there's a long road ahead, Sandy.
All right, Vassy, as always, thanks so much.
The long road is Canada's recovery because of what's going on right now globally. That Canada, because of the Liberal Party, and now the king himself, Carnage Carney, has, well, pretty much finished doing, and nobody in mainstream legacy state-funded propaganda media is talking about. Well, let's just let this complete waste of skin get caught, and she can answer the question that theoretically every media outlet should be discussing right now.
And obviously, we're all curious about the Zelensky meeting that is unfolding in Washington still. And I understand that you're speaking with President Stubb tomorrow when he gets back from the White House.
Stubb's at the White House? Well, what's he doing there?
I'm wondering what questions are in your mind right now as we head into this White House discussions. And do you know whether Prime Minister Carney was invited to the White House alongside our European peers?
Are you ready? Oh, you can't make this crap up.
I am very much looking forward to meeting with President Stubb. We're going to be discussing Canada-Finland cooperation, including economic and Arctic security collaboration. Of course, he is very well versed on Canada's long-standing position that Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty must at all times be respected, and that Ukraine itself must be the country that decides its sovereign future. That's what is required by international law and the international rules-based order. That is what is required by the concept of territorial integrity. And so that is Canada's position, and there's no ambiguity on that front about this.
Well,
thank you.
That wasn't the question. You complete incompetent waste of skin and taxpayers' money. Why wasn't Carnage Carney called and invited to the most important and influential peace talks of our generation? You have just heard the new fascist liberals answer. This is what they do in Parliament. This is what they do to any real reporter. And of course, they don't have to worry about state-funded media because they very rarely actually ask any real questions. So as an independent, I'll show you, and I urge you to like, share, and subscribe. And definitely tune into my prior episodes, because I'm constantly exposing this crap and the propaganda media. That's why I created the channel. Sorry, so sorry, just the truth, just the facts. But here's another thorn in Trump's behind. This one. Canada industry ministers meet with Saab Ericsson in Sweden. Canadian Industry Minister Melanie Joly is meeting with Saab AB and Ericsson in Sweden, where she also hopes to strike an economic partnership with the country, according to a person familiar with her plans. Most read blah blah. Joly is pushing for investment in Canada in the midst of a trade war with the US, while emphasizing the government's plan to increase defense spending. The minister was expected to speak with Saab about the Gripen E fighter jet, said the person, who asked not to be named in order to speak about private discussions. Now, this is a piece of crap airplane that, well, they're praying that some country, anybody will purchase, and nobody wants them because they're junk. But this is where Mark Carney's looking, because he wants to be able to say, oh, look, I got 40 of these jets for, half the cost. While our pilots, fall out of the sky? And what about the interchangeability between our two nations? And I don't mean overseas. I'm talking about the people we share this huge continent with. What good are buying airplanes that nobody else has. Zero zilch, except for this country. What good are they? Do you think the administration down south is impressed with this? This is just yet another thorn. Prime Minister Mark Carney announced a review of Canada's plan to buy dozens of F-35 fighter jets from the Lockheed Martin Group earlier this year, and later named the Gripen E plane as a potential alternative. But Reuters reported this month that some Canadian officials have made a strong case for sticking with the F-35 jets. Yeah, every single piece, part, and parcel of the military have voiced their concern that not only are they way behind on the F-35s thanks to this liberal regime for the last 10 years, they're not impressed with the fact that now they've actually lost out on the cheaper parts that they were able to get if Trudeau wouldn't have screwed over Canadians and the military to begin with. And again, all pushed by propaganda media. Canada's in big trouble here, people. This isn't good. The industry minister will also meet with her Swedish counterpart, Ebba Busch, on Monday to discuss a formal partnership between the countries to collaborate more closely on critical minerals, clean technologies, defense investment, and other matters, said the person. The visit is in part a push by the Carney government to strengthen ties with European partners and reduce its reliance on the U.S. for trade and security. Canada has already inked in partnership with the European Union that aims to create jobs in both regions. Really? What ink? How come we've seen nothing? This is what I do. I look, I research, I go through documents. Nothing. Inked what? What have they inked? They inked what? $750 million in oil sales? Oh no, that was Trump. They inked what? What did they pause? Nothing. Zero, people. Zero. Jody will travel to Finland on Wednesday, where she'll mark the start of the construction of an icebreaker that will be jointly built between Davies shipyards and the Helsinki and Quebec. She'll also meet with the Finland's foreign and defense ministers. Oh, let's just keep poking the bear down south. What happened to the icebreakers that Carney said we want in on and even shook Trump's hand about in the first meeting? The one that Trump's already come out and said he highly doubts Canada can afford them and that we have any backbone to that handshake or deal. As a Canadian, well, you already know how I feel. I'm disgusted because for some reason liberals think that they can promise one thing, throw a handshake down and walk away and say, oh, I renege. That's not Canadian. A deal's a deal. Your word is your word. Our country is so screwed. Canadian Foreign Minister Anita Anand was in Helsinki on Monday to attend a meeting of the 5 Nordic nations to discuss the Ukraine war, which is what we just heard. Her, well, typical liberal bullcrap. Nothing ever changes. Now, let's dabble on today's spotlight. This is your glorious leader.
Prime Minister, can we get an update on how trade talks are going? How are they going?
Good morning. Bonjour.
How are trade talks going?
Well, actually, I'm just going to meet with Minister LeBlanc. We'll have a discussion of that and important discussion with Premier Ford this morning on a variety of aspects for the Ontario economy, the Canadian economy, which of course includes trade, but goes much more to the issues that we can control and how we build out from within.
Like what would some examples be?
Look at him. He sure doesn't want to be there, does he? Why aren't you down in the States with all of the other heads of countries?
Well, we'll talk about the housing sector. We'll talk about...
Where's the media?
Steel, auto, new sectors of the economy, including artificial intelligence, what we're doing in terms of making Canada competitive.
What's your advice to President Zelensky regarding should he accept any deal?
I gave that advice yesterday in a meeting with President Zelensky and the coalition.
And what was it? What was it?
Do you have any
Well,
comment
you
on
can-
Air
you can
Canada,
take
sir?
it.
Anything to say to Air Canada union workers?
I'll say the following. We recognize very much the critical role.
Why were there no questions on why aren't you down in the States? Propaganda, people. Propaganda.
That flight attendants play in keeping Canadians and their families safe as they travel, comfortable as they travel. And it's important that they're compensated equitably at all times, fairly at all times. That's the reason why there have been negotiations over the course of the last 8 months. It is disappointing that those negotiations did not come to an agreement, and it was the judgment of both the union and the company that they were at an impasse. That's not my judgment, it's their judgment. And so we are in a situation where literally hundreds of thousands of Canadians and visitors to our country are being disrupted by this action. I urge both parties to resolve this as quickly as possible, and the Minister will have more to say. Minister Haidoo will have more to say later.
Did the government make a mistake imposing binding arbitration on the weekend?
That's your inglorious leader. What an absolute embarrassment. And then the meeting went on. Here is professional gaslighting by the two, most liberals in Canada. God, Ford, suck in your gut, knock off the smile, do your job. You are such a buffoon. Embarrassing.
It's a great pleasure to welcome the Premier back to Ottawa. I know you're a busy man and getting a lot done since we saw each other last time. And I'm going to take this opportunity to congratulate you again on your leadership, obviously, of this province, but also of the Council of the Federation at a critical time for the country. The work of the Federation itself, but also the work of the premiers with the federal government.
Listen carefully. Listen. You hear that, right?
For our economies has been essential, and je voudrais saluer le leadership du Premier ministre Ford de l'Ontario et puis du Conseil de la Fédération pendant un temps crucial pour notre pays. We've got a lot of work to do on major projects, on affordability, on security in our communities, and I think we're working well together, but we've got more to do and get it done, and we're going to have a good conversation to move forward.
Good. Well, I look forward to it, and thank you, Prime Minister, for having me by. We're going to have a real productive meeting here, and as I mentioned to the Prime Minister and the Premiers before, we know President Trump's unpredictable. We have to find out what we need to do to make sure that we create the environment and the conditions for companies from around the world to continue investing in Canada.
Yeah.
And we'll have that discussion. But thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Okay, merci beaucoup.
What the hell? The phone isn't ringing, people. Nobody's calling Canada. Nobody. No European nations. No northern nations. Nobody. Not even our neighbor down south. We are now 100% an irrelevant socialist nation. You might as well call us Korea 2.0. North Korea. There's something to that. We could be the most North Korea. We're irrelevant. In the meantime, they're gaslighting you. And the media is pushing this absolute crap. It just doesn't end. It doesn't end. Now, a lot of people were complaining And I was one of them, and I actually sent a letter in and voiced my opinion about this whole, this hiding of receipts in Alberta. Now, I'm not from Alberta, so my voice really doesn't much matter. I'm, right next door. But I do have a podcast, and I do got subscribers, and I got a lot of Alberta friends, family, and people who watch my show and subscribe to it. And I knew she was going to do something, and yet I was unaware about what all was going on, because it sure didn't seem like a libertarian's move to actually want to hide the books. Libertarians want to be super transparent. So this whole debacle was odd. Now, there's a lot of lefty loonies out there right away that were going, they're hiding the books, they've deleted records. Yes, they have deleted records. They did remove some records. And do you know who was in government? The NDP, you lefty loonies. Get your head out of your own butt. Do a little research and quit clickbaiting. Now, Smith was gone to Mexico working on some trade deals when all of this went down. She got wind of it. She was not happy. This all went down in the last 4.5 days. And then, and I should say, 7.5 days. And then she got on it, and here we are.
Whether or not government officials need to post their receipts online when they spend taxpayers' money. She was participating in the Alberta Next panel just outside of Edmonton last night, and she was asked about this. Listen to this.
I just want to ask you one quick thing about taxes and transparency. A lot of tax waste in the federal government. I just heard this week that we have removed the transparency on the internet for our Alberta government for over $100. Could you please be responsible to taxpayers or explain why?
I can't because I'm confused by that too. So we're going to be discussing that memo when we go to Cabinet on Tuesday. The issue that Cabinet discussed was that there are a number of Prime Ministers
with us now is CTV's
go to the same hotels when they're frequenting different municipalities. And they just wanted the name of the hotel redacted, just in case people were tracking them down and following. That was what the policy was supposed to be. It turned out to be something quite different. So we're going to see if we can maybe try to track down how that happened and do a reversal on that. Excellent.
So there you have it, straight from Premier Danielle Smith. She said that she too was confused by this result. And frankly, that move on August 1st was super confusing. For people who don't know, up until August 1st, Alberta has had a very strong transparency rule when it comes to the government spending taxpayers' money using basically the taxpayer credit card. Meaning, if they pull out the taxpayer credit card and they spend more than $100, that receipt is proactively disclosed. It is posted on the internet for everybody to see. So that's really important because details on those receipts matter. It matters to taxpayers if their money is being spent on a Taco Tuesday special or a lobster steak dinner. It matters to taxpayers if their money is being used to rent a Toyota Corolla or a Corvette. Okay? So details on receipts matter. And it has been the rule, standard operating procedure since 2012 in Alberta, thanks in part to the work from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation back then. It has been the rule since then that they have to proactively disclose it. And then this strange, quiet change was made on August 1st, just a few weeks ago. August 1st was the Friday before a long weekend. And somebody went into the policy and changed it and deleted the requirement to post receipts. That is not going to fly. And so it's really interesting now that we have Premier Smith back in the province, and she answered this question right away. The good news is this is going to be reversed on Tuesday. We are going to put our stringent transparency law back in place. You know, Alberta is a leader when it comes to things like grassroots democracy. We have got recall legislation at the provincial, municipal, and school board level here in Alberta. Yeah, you can fire all those folks in between elections. That's a really big deal. We have referendums, okay? We have the Taxpayer Protection Act, which prevents a sales tax, which prevents tax hikes. People would need to vote for things like that. And we also have really good government spending transparency laws. We all have to stay vigilant to make sure it stays that way.
Okay, now, what else have we got going on? Let's go back and check out where we're sitting with the election results. So far, let's do a quick update. 31,692. Oh, Poilievre is climbing. He is now at 80%. Bonnie, the, well, wannabe idiot, is at 3,936. 9.9%. Liberals are at 4.5. I can't believe there's people that vote Liberal. But, you know, propaganda. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And I just noticed that for some reason on this, even though I labeled it, I'm having some issues with the streaming with YouTube here, that it came across as my broadcast. So, sorry about that. I apologize. It's supposed to say the actual election results, but, you know, whatever. Yeah, so these numbers, the rest pretty much don't matter. New Democrats, United Party, People's Party, Green Party, Libertarians. It is nice to see the Libertarians at the same percentage point. They're a few votes behind. Really, the Libertarians should be way further ahead. They should be literally right next to the Conservative Party. But again, propaganda, people. Propaganda. I have got a few other things I want to go through before I call this an episode.
Hey everyone, this is Linnea
post
Lucan from the Heartland Institute, here with another... Hey everyone, this is Linnea Lucan from the Heartland Institute, here with another quick climate fact check. In this video, we're going to look at the truth about global wildfire occurrences and whether or not wildfires are getting worse, as the media often claims, due to climate change. In order for the claim to stand that climate change is worsening wildfires, data would need to show that wildfires are, in fact, getting worse. We already discussed this in a previous video looking at just data from the United States, but here I'm going to pull global data. So what does that global data show? Well, according to tracking done by satellites from both NASA and the European Space Agency, wildfires are actually on the decline worldwide. NASA data from 1998 to 2015 showed that the global area burned by wildfires declined by about 24%. This decline is most notable in NASA's chart showing the trend from 2003 to 2015. Map-style illustrations of the data show what regions have seen increases versus decreases over time, and there doesn't seem to be any significant trend with that spread, except that the most significant decline in burned area occurs in equatorial regions and the global south. The European Space Agency's data concurs. Their data starting in 1982 also show a decline in global acreage burned. Both of these satellite records are pretty well on trend for the pre-satellite reconstructions of historical fires, which also show a gradual decline since the beginning of the 20th century. If the land damaged by fires every year is declining, it is tough to be alarmed about climate change and wildfires. That's all I have for this fact check. For the sources used as reference for this video, you can check out climateataglance.com, where you can also download a free copy of the book Climate at a Glance for teachers and students. If you prefer paper, you can purchase a hard copy on Amazon. We also have an app available called Climate at a Glance for Android and iPhone.
I suggest the schools get your crap together and maybe actually start studying some real science. You know, my opinion, let me know how you feel in the comments. Now, I do want to play a few other little things here. This EV mandate is total insanity. This is a great little clip. Again, this is the LeDrew 3-minute interviews. This guy's awesome. He is a old school liberal who saw the socialist takeover of the party. asks real questions. Never really liked him when I was younger, although I did admire the fact that he did ask serious questions, but he did play favors back in the day because he was a liberal, which a lot of conservative, liberal, NDP, pundit and news agencies do. They do softball. They do the whole, throw a question. But I've become a real fan of his here in the last 4 or 5 years, especially in the last couple months with this whole new series that he does, these 3-minute interviews. He puts people right on the spot. You get 3 minutes. He throws hardballs. You answer it. They're recording. Here's Dilla Drew.
Jay Goldberg is my guest today. We are talking about government waste, which we've done here before. And every few months, more examples of terrible government waste. But it seems to me this is getting married right now with the billions of dollars put into EVs.
Yeah.
And I read just the other day that even though they are readily accessible throughout Canada now, you can buy them all, kind of get subsidies for them, 8% of the people just are only buying them.
Yeah.
92% say we don't want them.
92% say we don't want them, and that is why the government has passed into law a rule that says next year, out of all the new cars sold, 20% of them have to be EVs. It's a mandate.
How can you order people to buy EVs?
Well, that's the thing. What kind of society do we live in where the government is telling you what you have to buy? And it's going to be 20%, and by 2035, it's going to be 100%. So every new car that every car company is selling has to be an EV.
Tell me this is a hangover from Justin, and not just
It is, but so far Carney has refused to get rid of it. And the auto sector has said this will decimate jobs because people don't want to buy EVs, and those who don't will just buy used gas cars, or they will keep the cars they have right now.
But how can the government have the authority and have the wherewithal? Because we know virtually everything the government touches they screw it up. I mean, how are they going to say, you have to buy this car? No, I don't. I don't want to. I don't want it. Well, they're going to put a gun to your head?
Well, I think a very good question is going to be when it's 20% next year. So let's say there's 10 people that go into a dealership, and the first 8 buy gas-powered cars. Do
Good morning, Senator Martin.
Or say the only people allowed in here for the rest of the month are going to have to be people interested in EVs because we've sold too many gas cars. We can't sell anymore. If you come in, you have to come and buy the EV. And imagine how much money these companies are going to lose because if you want to get an EV, they're going to know. The consumer is going to know. These companies have to sell them. It's government mandated.
And when that happens, though, as well, the government is already wasting piles of money on EV, the construction, and the batteries.
Yeah.
It's just going to get worse and worse. They're going to be pumping this money into trying to convince people.
Well, this is one of the major reasons why they're wasting all this money trying to build the factories, because they've spent all this money trying to build the factories, trying to subsidize the production. What are you going to do with all these EVs that people don't want? You have to force them on people, and that's precisely what they're doing.
Or will they just give them out for free? Really, I know. Well, we have 400,000 cars that no one wants. Here, take one.
Every car that every government agency and the government is going to buy, of course, is going to be an EV. We all know that. Because
Except for the cabinets and the Prime Minister's car. They won't be EVs.
We shall see.
Well, we shall see, but it sounds to me like we're going down a disastrous path.
We're going down a disastrous path, and we do not have the money to pay for all this. And frankly, Canadians should be able to buy whatever vehicle they want. No one should be forced into buying anything, and no one should be forced into selling anything.
Oh, you're talking about liberty, Jay. So passé. Thank you very much. 3 minutes. To those of you who have subscribed and donated.
And as always, he's so direct. He's just so direct. Now, there was this letter sent. And sent by Senator Joseph E. Martin of Maine. The strength of the United States is infidelity to the Constitution. It emphasizes the national sovereignty and its roots in Western civilization, Christianity, and personal responsibility. These principles are not negotiable, and they must form the foundation of any expansion of the Union. If the Canadian provinces of British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba were to seek admission into the United States, it must be as full American states, not provinces, with conditions or dual allegiance. They would come into the fold by the consent of their people and the invitation of a constitutionally guided republic. There would be no hybrid governance, no special cultural carve-outs, and certainly no Canadian political baggage. The path forward would not be about convenience or economical expansion alone, but about the reaffirmation of liberty, state sovereignty, and national identity. A union of this kind would not dilute the American experiment, it would strengthen it, fortify it, and renew it with citizens who have consciously chosen Americanism over Canadian federalism. This would not be an annexation, it would be an adoption, welcoming home kindred spirits who were born under a different flag, but who desire to live under our Constitution and accept our responsibilities, customs, and traditions. Now, yes, it is kind of an invitation, but I think it was written more along the fact of how they want to ensure that if we did decide to leave and join the States, we would have to understand our obligations to the United States of America. Now, call it friendly, if you will. It's more of kind of a legal notice. So, now, of course, as always, I'm going to post in the links. You can read it over in its entirety. Then you get the most insane politician. This guy makes left loonies look fairly sane on a triple dose of Percocet. This guy is one of the biggest embarrassments I could ever possibly even have to sit and endure. And all those years watching Parliament, every time this grotesque embarrassment of a socialist, of a Canadian, I should say, this 100% pure, narcissistic, communistic. This guy is such an imbecile. He's a professional shit disturber. I want you to listen. I'm not gonna force you to listen to this entire thing. Think carefully, sit back, and wonder to yourself, how was this person ever even allowed to run, let alone had people vote for him? And I know you know the answers, but I'm going to give it to you in a minute.
Good morning, Senator Martin from Maine. It's Charlie Angus here in Canada. You know, when I heard that you'd sent out these mimeographed letters to elected legislators across Western Canada asking them to commit treason, to sell out their nation, to give up their sovereignty, I thought it was a joke, honestly. I mean, for one, nobody up here has ever heard of you, so I had to look you up, and I learned, oh, you represent Maine. That's that piece of ground that's below the beautiful provinces of New Brunswick and Quebec. Now, in saying that, I know I'm being a little mean to Maine, but heck, you guys voted for him, so I hope you don't mind if I put a little bit of shoulder into your chin. So I said,
shoulder, notice a little hockey pun? This guy would get decimated on the ice. And now, this guy, his claim is that he's supposed to be a musician. I was brought up the child of a musician, surrounded by a family of musicians, surrounded by more family and generations of musicians. And let me tell you, this guy would be the first person punted from the gang and thrown to the breeches of the nosebleed section for punishment. This is not diplomatic. This is completely the opposite of what you want to do when you are a professional entertainer. Now, yes, we live in a different world, and a lot of people out there, especially the rich and famous, and usually they wait until they have enough money and security before they open their mouth and say really stupid things. Now, I don't care if you are right or wrong, or should I say right or left. As a musician, once you've put yourself and built a career, you should stay out of politics. The second you decide to open your mouth, you should forfeit any future ongoing and deal with the causes you think are just. Now, this guy is a complete embarrassment to any entertainer. And yes, I actually dug back and watched some of his, well, call it music. He is an idiot.
Thinking, okay, who is this guy? And what's his offer for getting people to sell out their country? So I looked up your letter. And what did you say? You said, well, the United States has the values of Western civilization. So is that the same Western civilization that elects a convicted felon?
You ready for the lies? Here we go. You can thank mainstream media, and that's the answer to the question. Mainstream media allowed this person to get elected because they didn't expose the absolute insanity that this person is. Hey, Charlie, you forgot your meds again.
A sexual predator? A guy who brags about feeding people to alligators? Is that...
Did he really say that?
At your Western civilization? You say that this is a nation under the Constitution. So is that the same Constitution that makes it possible for guys in masks to kidnap people off the streets? Or the president to send...
Who's in masks calling for the end of a certain people? Oh, the ones that he's backing. The Hamas. Right.
The National Guard against unarmed civilians in a...
Unarmed civilians. Drug dealers. Pedophiles. Human traffickers. Right.
American cities? Is that your constitution? Then, of course, you have to say that you're a nation under Christian values. You know, I like Jesus.
Oh, this is the guy that spoke out against Foyt. No Christian religion allowed in Canada. No. Nuclear families? Bad. Evil. Evil. This guy is such a blatant waste of skin. I'm going to just skip ahead a little wee bit to the end.
A nation that is based on the lands that we live on, which belong to the indigenous people, and we are all...
Really? I worked my whole life to buy and secure a piece of land, and it's not mine? Oh wait, I'm not indigenous enough to be indigenous because your government said that if my mom who was native married somebody, then I'm not native anymore. But if my dad was native and married somebody, then they're native. So the government gets to pick who's indigenous. But yet everybody's land doesn't belong to them, it belongs to the indigenous. Really. And any factual basis behind this? Do you know how often tribes became extinct over the last 1,000 years? How about the study of DNA? How they say, guess what? There actually isn't a single tribe in North America that can claim being older than 500 years. Nada. So where do they get this since time immemorial? For millennia from? This guy is a freaking imbecile.
All going to work that out together as a nation because we respect each other. But we don't respect you, Senator. We don't respect MAGA. And we don't respect the criminal that you work for. In Canada, we will remain true, north, strong, and free. And we will always be that. Goodbye, Senator.
That is the epitome of the NDP, Liberals and Greens, right there. What a complete waste of skin. You can't make this stuff up. You really can't. So where are we sitting here? We are sitting at, drum roll please, he's climbed a little bit more. 34,280 votes at 80.2%. Now, I was doing a little bit of kind of searching here. It looks like this is going to go on for quite a while. So I'm actually going to call this an episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to definitely have to correct that title. I don't know how the heck that happened, but it is what it is. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. And I think I was the first person to officially call the election. Although, it's a joke. Everybody knew it was over. There was never a chance that Poilievre was ever going to lose that riding. And to be honest, the only reason I really did the live stream is the humor of it all. Just because the way the media has been, I figured, you know what, I'm going to get my voice out there and I'm just going to kind of mop the floor with a whole bunch of stupidity for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Just to kind of make sure that there's lots of clicks out there to really perturb those socialist fascists that, oh my God, the algorithms are so high. Look at this, another man who's gone conservative. The fear. It's the end of the world. Oh, you just can't make this stuff up. Scary, scary, scary times. Anyways, everybody, I hope you had a good few hours with me. Hope you got to laugh with me. Yeah. You literally can't make this stuff up. The craziness of it all. And I was kind of working in the shop and getting some stuff done here in the background and kind of loading this up, getting it ready to go. And I knew that I had kind of a late night. I got some things in the back that I'm kind of waiting on. I'm like, you know what a perfect way to kill time. And it gives me a little bit more practice with this whole streaming aspect of it. Because YouTube keeps telling me, you got to stream more, and this is how you can make revenue, and this is how you can do this. And so I figured I'd give it a shot, and guess what? I failed immensely. Looks like I lost my chats. They didn't get to come up, and once I was streaming, I had no idea how to kind of... And I was looking while you guys were listening, and I was trying to get other stuff going, and I couldn't find the damn chat box to get it back up again. And that was gone. And my title was gone. And I came up mute for the first minute and a half, and thanks to a couple really good viewers, they were texting me going, hey, I'm watching your live stream. You're muted. So thanks to my subscribers out there for letting me know. I appreciate that. Anyways, you guys, until next time, I'm Alias to Guy. You've been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. Make sure you check out the clothing line I've got. You can, it's a small way to support me, and a great way to actually get the word out on your beliefs and how you feel. And trust me, the clothing is top-notch quality. The detail work on the decals is beautiful. Or you can literally donate. Email's right there. Till the next time, everybody. Alias to Guy, Canadian Citizen Journal. Stay informed.